coding was boring for me. I enjoy working elbow to elbow with physicians, partnering with them to help them improve their documentation. But if you stick me in a room and say code for 8 hours, I have ADHD.
I was downsized from my company back in, this was around 2005, single mom with 2 kids with no job. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That is how we grow and move forward.
I enjoy being on stage, motivating, inspiring, leading, empowering, transforming the lives of others, because I believe that all the things that I went through from 0 to 50 will help so many people shed their own weight. So one of my strategies for the Growth Motivator Live is to ensure that I am able to reach a wide range of audiences. As a healthcare professional, I've had an opportunity to meet with professionals from all across the globe. And so I thought in season 1, I needed to invite a guest on who was not going to be camera shy, but also was going to be very transparent and authentic. And so I have with me today Karen, not Karen, just for the record, I want that to be the first thing that we say. But Karen, who I met through a mutual friend, Michelle. We're both healthcare professionals. I'm a coder, but not a coder. Karen's likes to be in leadership, but I wanted to invite you on because you're very vocal on Facebook. During the pandemic, I kind of felt like I had some popcorn and was experiencing life with you. Your daughter is amazing. She's my hero. If I ever come back as a kid, I will come back as her because she is everything that I wasn't as a kid. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So this show is about growth. And for me, at a tender age of 50, I've experienced a lot of growth. There are some things that I would do differently. There are some things that I would just leave the same. So tell us about a time that you faced some significant challenges, whether it's your personal life, your professional life, and how you overcame it.
So one thing that comes to mind that was probably a really significant event that led to completely change the trajectory of my life was when I was downsized from my company back in, this was around 2005. And this is the first time in my life I was unemployed. I'd been working since 15 years old, did all of the things. I always worked, had a great career. I earned my bachelor's as an adult student. And once I earned that degree, I left. I was in manufacturing at the time, and I left working in this manufacturing plant and thought I'd, venture out and see what else was out there. And I was working for a company, and then here I am for the first time with no job, single mom with 2 kids with no job. It was terrifying. I found myself at the unemployment office back then when you had to physically go and say, here I am, what do I do? And there was a woman there handing out information for a medical coding program, like train for this career through Workforce Services of Will County. So I put the pamphlet in my purse. I didn't really think anything of it. I applied for my unemployment benefits and went through all that. And I got back home and thought, well, let me see what this is all about. Because as I was thinking, here I am for the first time in my life with no job, maybe I should look at healthcare. Hospital isn't going to go out of business. Maybe this is something I should look at. So I did. Long story short, I qualified for their training program. I took the training, and it led to a completely different career path for me.
I love that. What's interesting is I started in healthcare in 92. Mm-hmm. And I entered healthcare honestly because I had a baby.
Yeah.
And I was working at McDonald's. As a manager, I had went to Hamburger University. I thought I was going to own a McDonald's, but then real life set in, right? So formula and diapers
and pediatrician visits and a copay every time they're sick. It adds up.
Yes.
It adds up.
And so I went to school for medical assisting because I literally saw a commercial on TV. In just 6 short months, you can become a medical assistant. I was thinking, oh, that sounds like really cool, because my aunt, Lynette, who was also my godmother, I watched her go through nursing school. And so she was like, you should become a nurse. I didn't really want to become a nurse, but I said, it's real. So I signed up for this program, went through the program, and coding fell in my lap. And basically, the doctor who I was working with was like, all right, you, because that's what he called me. He was like, you, at the end of each visit, I want you to put these numbers on this form. Anything you do, anything I do, just put it all on this form. And then I was typing up HCFA back then, HCFA 1500 claim forms. And I was like, this coding is pretty cool. And then fast forward to 97, I was, started teaching coding. And so it's always interesting to me to see how others navigate through coding. Now, having taught for 25 years, I realize most folks that go into coding, it's their second career, right? They saw a commercial, they know somebody else that does it. And for you, you had a life-changing experience that led you to coding. And would you say that you enjoyed it? What interests you about coding?
In the beginning, I looked at it more as a secure industry. But once I was in the course, it really kind of aligned with my personality. I'm a little introverted, and to be able to just sit with books and charts and nobody talks to you, I'm fine with, I could go a day without human interaction. I'm fine in that kind of environment. So having that kind of just very methodical work was appealing. It's not for everybody, but for me, I was fine.
Well, I'll tell you a fun fact. So I'm obviously not introverted, right? And so for me, coding was, honestly, people are going to be shocked that I say this, coding was boring for me because I don't like sitting in that one confined environment. I love to look at medical records, but what I found that I enjoy the most is educating physicians. And I think part of that is because I started off as a medical assistant in the room with the physician. So I enjoy working elbow to elbow with physicians, partnering with them to help them improve their documentation. But if you stick me in a room and say code for 8 hours, I have ADHD when it comes to that. I am going to get up from the computer and say, this is not for me.
It's not, yeah. And early on, I would find myself getting bored, not with the work, but with the specialty. So once I would be assigned something and I would, work nephrology or something, it's the same procedures, it's the same kind of surgeries, and there gets to a point where now I'm bored. So then I would just keep continually trying to learn different specialties or different areas of coding to keep myself, engaged a little bit.
Well, that definitely is something that you got to do if you want to stick with it. But there are some coders that they love being confined to that computer. Don't ask them to meet with a physician to go over documentation because they are not willing to do it. And will just say, no, I don't want to do it. I don't feel comfortable doing it. Whereas me, where do I need to be and what time? And it's like lights, camera, action, and I'm good with it.
And I think one kind of interesting aspect of the field is the ability to evolve into some of those other areas. And I found myself as well, the more time I spent, and I had opportunities to educate providers or opportunities to learn auditing or opportunities to learn all of these different areas that go beyond the, fundamentals of we're just coding. That's really where I found my niche in the industry.
So, speaking of, I have a new book coming out called Grow With Me. And I want to know what happened from a growth perspective professionally after you took that program. Because I know you got your master's degree. I know that you are an amazing educator who is going to educate the next generation of professionals. But what happened after you finished the program and you started working?
So once I started working, my very first job that I got, I obtained it while I was still in. Like we had maybe a month left, and I started sending out resumes because I was like, I need to be working here as soon as this is done. And I got hired, I got interviewed and hired by a third-party billing company, and I didn't get a coding position. They hired me as medical accounts receivable. So for those not in the industry, those are the folks that follow up with the insurance companies on claim payment. We also followed up with patients on their outstanding co-pays or outstanding patient balances. So, but it got my foot in the door. I was very happy to be working, and from there, I was there maybe 4 or 5 months, and the company took on a new client, and they were very aware of my background coming in. I had a lot of other industry experience, and the owner pulled me in his office and said, we're bringing in this new client, and we'd like you to head this account. And I was like, yes, give me this opportunity. So I spent 3 years there building this new client account up. I grew it to be the largest income producing client for the company, and I was very proud of that. Like, I basically helped build it from scratch. So being able to utilize those other skills in this new role really helped, help me establish myself there with this company. Because they were a small company, although I was working, I was not making the income that I was really desiring. So I started sending out more resumes. I'm like, maybe I should try to find a position actually coding, because I was not coding. Like, I got this coding cert and I got this job, and I was ending up for 3 years doing not coding, but it was fine. So I did find a coding role, and I loved it. It was like kind of gave me a test of, here's what I actually learned. Now I have the opportunity to do it. But similar to my experience in the first role, the role evolved. I was hired to work for a specific clinic of this medical group. And when the providers' contracts came up, they all decided they didn't want to work there anymore or whatever was going on, and they closed the clinic. I didn't lose my job though. Corporate absorbed me. So we became, and that's when I was working for our mutual friend Michelle, I fell under her team. But what we were doing, we were coding, but we were also doing education. We started doing education with the sites, a lot of process improvement behind operating procedures between all of the clinics. We had all these different regions, and we found that every clinic was kind of doing something different. So we were looking to standardize. So I spent a lot of time going clinic to clinic, learning their process. We worked to come up with a standardized procedure, and then we went back out and trained all the sites on, here's what we need everyone to do. So although I got this coding cert, my roles have kind of all evolved beyond the scope of actual production coding.
I love it.
Yeah.
So speaking about the scope of production coding, share with us a specific routine or habit that has contributed to your success.
Oh, goodness. I think one habit that anybody in this industry or whatever industry you're in, you have to stay current on industry trends. I became very active in our local chapter from AAPC, where I hold my credentials. So I actually served on the board for a number of years, but just staying current on education topics, webinars, magazines, any kind of LinkedIn community, you've got to stay on top of what's happening, because it's so ever changing with what we do. And if you don't know what's going on, there's errors, and you have to be able to mitigate that before they happen.
I love it. So what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing that you have a growth mindset as it relates to your life, as opposed to a fixed, I'm just going to stay here type of mindset.
Absolutely. You have to. And it's not just in this industry, but I think you and I have very similar perspectives on that. You don't continue to grow and evolve as a person if you aren't willing to keep digging in deep and saying, what's my next goal? What's the next thing I want to do?
I love it. I'm working with a coach. I believe everybody needs a coach. And a coach is different than a therapist. And my coach, Ashley Kirkwood, says you should be learning faster than you're growing. And when she first said it, it made complete sense and it hit me like a ton of bricks. So some people are like, what does that mean, learning faster than you're growing? So I read a lot of books every day. Amazon drops a book off at my door. And I'm reading all sorts of books from individuals from all walks of life because I believe that when I get to that pivotal moment in my life, everything that I've learned helps support me where I am at that point. And had I not taken the time to learn, I'm going to stop growing.
There's such a direct correlation, and I definitely consider myself a lifelong learner, a student of life, all of those types of phrases. I've always had a creative mind as a kid. I was always wanting to learn and grow and do more and be more, and I've just carried that through adulthood.
Yeah, I can tell that your daughters are a little creative as well.
Just a smidge.
Just a smidge. Hey, you know what? I believe that we as parents, we have such a huge influence on not everything our kids are going to do, right? Because you could have a stable household and all things are good, and then your kid goes out and does something totally different,
Yes,
right?
Right.
But I do believe that eventually, if they go left, they will eventually come back and draw on the skills and gems that you dropped in their life. Some of them will be like, well, mom did this, so I'm going to do this as well. But there are going to be some things that carry them through. And we just have to allow them to go through their process, just like we went through our process, and it wasn't perfect, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So tell us about a person who has been a major influence in your life.
Wow. I would probably 100% say my dad. He graduated high school, he served in Vietnam, came back, and he worked in the trades for his career. He was a stationary engineer, local 399, became a chief engineer, retired, from that industry. But one thing that I learned from him growing up, although education was important, he was also a very lifelong learner. He read a lot. He was self-taught in a lot of disciplines. He's one of the most intelligent people I know. He could talk about economics and finance and all of these things that he just learned reading, taking an interest. He learned how to invest. He learned all of these different disciplines. And I just kind of always had that in the back of my mind that you can learn in the classroom, but you are also so much of your own learning. You have to take that accountability for yourself. And if you want to learn something, you want to know how to do something, get a book and read and figure it out. And our generation now, you can just find a YouTube video. The internet has so many answers out there. There's no excuse to stay stagnant and not know things when information is literally at your fingertips.
I love it. So a couple of things that I'll share with you that you probably did not know. So number one, my new book, Grow With Me, is going to go into the pre-sale stage on Father's Day. And one of the reasons that I chose Father's Day as the day is I think oftentimes fathers don't get the credit that they deserve, right? So mothers, right? Sure. Mother's Day, it's a $1 billion industry, right? All the restaurants are going to be sold out, flights are going to be expensive, but on Father's Day, you can pretty much move about the country with ease. And so for me, this pre-sale date symbolizes that it's Father's Day. I was my father's first daughter. My grandfather, who was 102 years old today, had a major role in my life. He always motivated me and supported me. And so growing up as a child, my father, my grandfather, my uncle, they showed me how a man is supposed to nurture, grow, and support their family. Then, marrying my husband, who came with 3 little people, I saw him as this person who would do anything for their children. And I think the world would have us think that men don't handle their responsibilities. Now, let's just be clear. There are some men.
Sure, there's some, but it's not all.
It's not all. Yes.
All.
And I also think that I was talking with one of my friends, Jennifer, who, like me, had humble beginnings. And when we started to have a conversation about her life and my life, I had some assumptions about what I thought happened in the household that didn't look like mine.
Mm-hmm.
And after we had a conversation about her life, it changed me, because people will label a certain race as privileged,
Mm-hmm.
not realizing that we're all people. We all have our own paths that, we have to go through. And when you take all those layers away, you realize at the end of the day, we are all the same. We all got two kidneys, right?
Yes.
That stem with the ureter into the urinary bladder, right? So I realize that the world spends a lot of time trying to divide us, separate us, when we have so much in common. And so for me, my father has always motivated me, and he took me to the library as a kid. And we were required to read, which is why I love reading today. And so Father's Day for me is important because, number one, you only get one father, one grandfather, right? One of everybody. Yes. And so when they're gone, I want their memories to live forever, even after I'm no longer here. So kudos to your dad for setting that example. And something that you said that I thought was really important. People see us and they say, oh, they're educated, and so they think they're all of that. Honestly, I'm just going to speak for myself. I didn't go to school for the bachelor's degree, the master's degree, the doctorate degree, because that's something that I wanted to do. It's not something that I did so that I could be better than others. Every degree I have was intentional. I got the PhD because I was teaching at a university, and as a master's degree holder, I said, well, how do I make more money? And they're like, oh, you got to get a doctorate degree. So guess what? Challenge accepted. Right. I got the doctorate degree. I got my bachelor's degree because I saw my manager operating, and I'm like, I can be the manager. I can be in charge. Mm-hmm. So every degree had a purpose, but it was never about anybody else. Right. It was about me wanting to have a better life for me, my daughter. As a single parent, I didn't have a lot of resources, but I felt that education was the key to success.
And I think I had a very similar perspective. It sounds like we had a little bit of a similar upbringing with good male influence. I'm the first in my family to go to college. Both my parents were high school educated. I had to take out student loans to pay for it. We didn't have money. We were not an affluent family by any means, but college was something I wanted for me. So I figured out a way to do it. I mean, I worked, I have loans. I'm 48 and still have loans. Like, I'll take them to my grave probably, but I don't regret having to take them because it was important to me to achieve that. And then I went on to get my master's, very similar. Like, I saw it as a next level in my career. If I get this advanced degree, it'll open more doors for me, more income potential. And I wanted that for myself, so I went for it. And there's nothing stopping anybody else from doing those same things.
And not only just for you, but to me, you were an example for your children about what you can achieve with certain things, right?
Yes.
So not to say that you go to school for a trade and that's mm-hmm. not something that allows you to have a sustainable life, but I think it's important for kids to have something to pattern themselves after as opposed to nothing.
Agreed. And my kids watched me, my two older ones watched me earn that bachelor's. I was an adult student, but I did an associate's right out of high school. But then again, here I was paying for school myself. I can't be at a 4-year school and pay for it. You you can't work full time and and be on campus full time. So I found a full time job and just whittled away classes on the weekends. And once I got it done, I mean, I had my 2 older ones at that graduation, and then I had the whole family at my master's graduation, because by then that was 10 years later, and I had more kids to the mix. So
I love it. And I know one of your children just finished nursing school.
yes, my oldest. So that she graduated, I think it's been 2 years ago. I lose track of time, but yes, she is a nurse, a pediatric nurse. So she kind of followed her dreams. She always wanted to work with the littles, and she's doing that. And she met her significant other in nursing school, and he's also a nurse. He's ICU, so they work at the same hospital, but completely different areas. And they just have this great relationship, great medical background, and they have a good foundation for my granddaughter, who just turned 3. I have a grandson on the way next month.
Wow. Yeah. So guess what? We have one grandson, and we have another one on the way this year. Now, I've been so consumed with Grow With Me, the Growth Motivator. The exact date, I don't know, maybe June, July of this year. But there's something about the role of a grandparent versus parent. And I personally didn't think it was going to be different, but man.
It's very different. It is.
So what's different for you?
So I think it's just maybe I don't want to say lack of responsibility, because that's not really a thing, but it is, I'm able to enjoy her in just such a different way than I did my own kids. And I don't know if it's just I'm at a less stress. I'm able to just, this is my day with her, and she'll go home to her mom sort of thing, but it's a very different experience, environment when she's with me than I remember having when I was the mother of a 3-year-old. Being the grandmother of a 3-year-old it's very different.
Well, I'll tell you what's different. When you had your own 3-year-old, you were going through your own stuff that to some extent, I'm just going to speak for myself, earlier as a parent, I didn't enjoy parenthood because I spent so much time trying to figure myself out, trying to figure out what I needed to do next to make sure we had a better life. And then when you add that I gave birth to a special needs child, that added so many complex levels because I was a single parent. Her father was like, I don't know how to raise a special needs child, so he didn't. Newsflash, neither did I. Yes. I read the book, what to expect when you're expecting. But when she arrived with her own set of instructions that I didn't know about. And because she can't talk, because she can't hear, I had layer upon layers of challenges that I kept fighting. And someone said to me recently, I watched you go through all of that and you beat the odds, right? Mm-hmm. You never gave up. And so one of the things that I talk about in Grow With Me is that one time that I took a bottle of Tylenol. Mm-hmm. That was not something that I disclosed earlier in life. I believe that it helped me free myself from the guilt that I felt behind that because, looking back on it, did I do it because I wanted attention? Did I do it because I was just hurting? I was struggling. And I was just trying to figure out, how am I going to provide a better way of life for my daughter, for myself, so that we're not homeless? I'm so thankful that I have never had to live in my car. I'm so thankful that I had family members that said, you know what, come stay with me. So all of those trials and tribulations, they really helped me stay grounded. I appreciate every mountain that I had to climb. And so it really forced me to be transparent when I wrote the book, and it allowed me to step out of my comfort zone because I know that there's someone that's going to read the words that maybe is on the verge of taking the pills, right? Is thinking about it. I didn't know back then that I really maybe should have sought help.
Yeah.
But I feel like I was crying out for help, but no one was noticing that I needed that help. And so now at 50, I'm very clear in verbalizing, when I'm struggling, what help I need. But for a while, I was in this comfort zone where I just needed to be strong and I'm just going to figure it out.
And I think for people like you and I, like being a single mother, you're forced to take on a level of independence that, like, this is just your life. You don't get, you talk about your daughter's father. Well, we didn't get to walk away. Like, we're here, we're in it. And I think people who have that kind of hyper independence struggle asking for help. It's difficult to then say, wave that white flag, like, I'm drowning over here, can somebody step in? And I'm glad to hear that you kind of have been transparent in your book about that situation, because it's important for people to see us as we're real. Everyone has struggles, and so many people are, especially in the age of social media, it's here's my perfect life. No. And you mentioned me being very vocal on Facebook. I am for that reason. I've shared a lot of personal things that aren't the perfect side. And it's in that light to say, I know there's other people struggling like I am, or there are other people facing this situation. Everyone goes through highs and lows. It's important that people realize they can ask for help, and there are resources, and people willing to step up and help.
Well, listen, I can't wait for the Karen show. Karen, not Karen. Let's just be clear. Because when I watched your life play out on Facebook, first of all, I was like, I can't believe she said that. And then I can't believe she did that. But I think that it was important for you to do that because it probably helped you shed some weight that you were holding on to.
Yes.
And it probably kept you sane.
Absolutely.
I mean, because I saw you going on trips with people you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you know what? And so just so you know, you inspired me, because after I saw you on a trip with people you didn't know,
Yes.
I went on a girls' trip to Jamaica with women that I did not know. There was one person that actually shared a room with me that I did know.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, imagine this. 16 women don't know each other. They get on a plane and go to Jamaica, right? And our trip was so crazy because it was supposed to be 16 of us, and the Montego Bay airport shut down. So it wound up only being 6 of us on this trip. But here we are, not knowing each other, and found lots of commonalities among us. And we spent 4 days together in a villa with a private chef.
Mm-hmm.
My first time ever experiencing that, right?
That had to be a nice park, right?
Yeah, very, very nice. But we started the trip off with something in common. There were 16 of us, and then it was down to 6. And we spent days just hanging out with each other like we had known each other for years.
And I had almost the identical experience when I did that similar trip. I had met those ladies in a Facebook group. We were actually in a working moms Facebook group, and somebody got the idea, like, let's meet in real life. We had been talking with each other for probably 3 or 4 years at this point. So while we knew each other from messaging and posting, we had never met, but somebody said, let's do this meetup, and we did, and had a very similar experience. You had 10 women who were from completely different regions of the country, ethnic backgrounds, some were married, some are single, and we got along like we had known each other our whole lives. But would you agree, had you not stepped out of your comfort zone and taken that risk, how different your life would be now? You probably have these 5 other women who are really good friends, right?
Yes, and so guess what? Some of them, they live here, And so I invited them to my 50th birthday party. They came. And so one of the things that I know is true, again, I'm going to go back to, people are probably tired of me talking about this, it's that growth mindset. And was I afraid? I was afraid a little bit because my friend, Dr. Nisa, that I traveled with, she had not been out of the country, so there was that extra layer with her, making sure she was okay. But honestly, I'm just going to be real. In the back of my mind, I said, if something goes down, I know how to get me a transportation back to the airport and get on the plane. But that was not something that I entered the trip thinking. I was thinking, Jamaica. It's my happiest, most happiest place in the world, right? I can go to drinks. So I could go to Jamaica, every quarter if I was able to afford it. But the trip was so easy. It was easier than a first date.
Wow. Literally,
because we all just gelled together, and it was just so amazing. So amazing. So amazing. So, Karen, tell us about a time when you had to step out of your comfort zone and how it led to personal and professional growth.
I love this question. I have spent so much time, I'd say over the last 5 years or so, really purposefully stepping out of my comfort zone. You've said before, everyone who knows Lisa knows that you drink tea. Everyone who knows Karen knows that I love memes. And there was a meme that I saw several years back that said something along the lines of, everything you've ever wanted lies on the other side of fear. And that really resonated with me. And so much of what was holding me back was this fear, which is really just your ego eating your mind and filling it with all of this imposter syndrome nonsense. But I was like, how can I move forward from this? Because I knew that in order to grow my career, my personal life, any of these things, I had to what I really needed to do was get comfortable being uncomfortable. So you have I don't know, I've done so much reading and stuff on these topics, but there's our comfort zone. And then there's our uncomfort zone. So stuff that maybe you've done that you didn't really like. Like for me, it was public speaking. I don't want to talk in front of a room of people, but that was one thing for me that was here's my uncomfort zone. But then there's that next layer, I call it the great unknown. How you have to be able to get from your comfort zone to that great unknown. And that's what I feel the meme was relaying. That's the fear. You've got to be able to leap 2 feet first and know that you've got the skills, the confidence, all of these tools to face anything that you're going to face when you're out there. So one of my biggest things was, okay, let me conquer this public speaking situation. That's going to be my first uncomfort. I'm going to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So I started speaking at local chapters, do some presentations, and I did it until I got comfortable doing it. And it was terrifying in the beginning. I would literally sweat and have palpitations, and I had to speak for an hour, and I knew what I was talking about. It's not that I wasn't well versed in my topics, it was just literally speaking in front of people was such an anxiety-ridden thing for me. Now it doesn't bother, I won't say it doesn't bother me. I can do it. I still will get a little nervous beforehand, but I've mastered the skill so much, I'm fine. Now it moved from being an uncomfort, I'd say it's a comfort. And I just took a lot of time just doing and experiencing things that were scary. 2 years ago, I ran for public office. Who would have thought introverted Karen would run for public office? But I did. I woke up one day, very Elle Woods from Legally Blonde. Do you think she woke up one day and said, I think I'll run for public office? The position was open. I had called a friend who had served on our city council previously and said, I'm thinking about running. Can you tell me about your experience? She told me a little bit about it, and I was like, I'm going to do it. And I filed all the petitions, the paperwork. I had 2 opponents. And at the end of the day, I got the highest vote count. I won the seat. And it has been, so my term ended a few weeks back, but it was such a life-changing experience that I never would have had the opportunity had I not put myself out there. I've met so many people, many of whom are now friends, that wouldn't even be in my circle, in my network, had I not jumped feet first. So I really think it's like a huge message for others, like you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That is how we grow and move forward. And to your point of your growth mindset, like it just ties right in with that.
I love it. Well, I will tell you, I was looking on Facebook because the Karen show is on Facebook.
Yes, it is.
Karen, not Karen, is on
It's a very
Facebook.
unofficial show, but
Yes, and I'm like, she's running for what?
right.
I'm like, first of all, how do we go from me buying some Girl Scout cookies from her daughter
Yes.
to her running for office?
Yes.
So I will tell you something that I have not shared with you, but I will share it now. So you know I have the book, Grow With Me, coming
Yes.
out. But chapter 12 is faith over fear. And I talk about me wanting to transition out of some things, me wanting to shed some weight that was holding me hostage. In that chapter, my CPA, Crystal, I was chatting with her one day about me running my business and then teaching at all these different schools online. And I was like, I really just want to run my business. I want to take my speaking career to the next level. And she said to me, you have to execute faith over fear. And so, believe it or not, I wrote that chapter in 45 minutes on the beaches of where? Montego Bay. And I wrote it crying the entire time. My roommate, Marcy, she was like, are you recording that? This was afterwards. Are you recording that? Because she was like, it was so good. I didn't record it. I was literally speaking to Microsoft Word, and Microsoft Word was transcribing. But I shed so much weight by speaking that chapter that it gave me permission to go to the next step. And I don't think that I would have done that had I had a fixed mindset, because I allowed myself to be vulnerable with myself, right?
Yes.
And realized that it was selfish for me to hold myself back from the world. Unlike you, I am not introverted. Nothing's wrong with being introverted, but I'm not introverted. I enjoy being on stage, motivating, inspiring, leading, empowering, transforming the lives of others, because I believe that all the things that I went through from 0 to 50 will help so many people shed their own weight. And it's selfish of me not to give them that experience.
I agree. And it's like we get to this stage in our lives, you can't always play small. You've got to get out there and let your voice be heard. And especially as women, I think we're taught from a young age, and what we experience in the workplace, we have to overcome a lot of that to build the confidence to be able to let our voice be heard.
I love it. Well, is there anything else you want to share with our listening audience? I have been very strategic in my guests for this first episode. I wanted to make sure that I had a diverse audience, so women, men, different nationalities, different ages, different experiences. But is there anything that you want to share with our audience? I personally, I'm just going to be nosy. I want to know, in the next 5 years, where do you see yourself?
That is a great question. I have been striving to start a business of some kind for quite a while. It was actually one of the reasons behind me earning my master's. Not that I needed that to take that step, but I thought it would give me a little more confidence, experience to be able to do that. Then I had my youngest son, and that kind of backburnered things. And the idea I had for a business back then, industry and things have changed where I don't even think that's really a thing. But I do see myself doing something to establish another stream of income. And similar to you, like letting my voice be heard, I feel like I have a lot of experience, especially around the realm of getting out of your comfort zone, that will help other people expand their careers or even just their personal lives. You have to be able to raise your vibration to bring those gifts in. And if you're constantly staying stagnant, it'll never happen. So it's part about just being confident. It's part having some goal setting and learning how to reach those milestones, but just being true to yourself and trying to achieve everything that this world has ready for you.
I love it. Well, I will tell you, the entrepreneurial journey, it is a journey. And one of the things that has helped me is community.
Mm-hmm.
So without a community, the entrepreneurial journey is extremely lonely. A lot of people start it and stop it. A lot of people fight with their partner about being an entrepreneur, because as an entrepreneur, you are a risk taker.
You definitely are.
Sometimes you take money from the household and use it for the business, and it may not yield a return on investment, and you go back at it again where your partner or spouse is like, okay, when is this going to be up? Yes. My graphic designer, Travell, talks about earlier in his business how he took risks. And today, this dude, when I tell you, he is designing graphics and websites for large corporations. It paid off, and I think it paid off because he kept fighting.
Mm-hmm.
So
perseverance
yes.
is a huge attribute, like I don't know what I'm trying to say, to have, especially if you're a business owner, business builder.
But community is important.
Definitely. And the ability to network too. You have to be able to build that community. And that's also a skill that I had to build over the years. I didn't just have it. I actually lacked it. It was something that I realized early on that I was in school, it was like, get good grades, do this. So I was very book smart, very accomplished. I lacked a lot of that communication, and I really had to work to build that over the course of my career.
I am so excited for your future. I know that at 50, I'm a tad bit older than you. At 50, my life is literally just beginning. Mm-hmm. And how I know that to be true, my grandfather, who was 102, was walking around my birthday party with his walker, and I didn't even know this was happening because I was taking pictures, right? Apparently, Granddaddy was walking with his walker from table to table. I purposely had not planned on getting on the microphone, saying anything. And next thing I know, he's on the microphone telling everybody he's 102. So I realized that my grandfather, Edward Campbell, my grandmother, Mabel Campbell, they built this house that you see in front of you that is ready to put on her boxing gloves and take the world by storm. I know that by shedding my own weight, and I'm not talking about physical weight, right? Because I've struggled with weight my entire life, but that mental weight, yes, that imposter syndrome weight, that loneliness weight, that let me wait until I do this, yes, before I do that weight. I've shedded a lot of that weight, and so now I'm ready to help others. I joke in my book, well, not joke, but I share in my book that to some extent I felt like I did not experience the process of delivering a baby. Mm-hmm. Jasmine was born at 34 weeks. She was 4 pounds, 14 ounces. And I was supposed to have a C-section or a vaginal delivery, but I wound up having a C-section. And so for years, I felt like I was robbed of the of the process, because a C-section, they just cut you open and here's the baby, right? So for me, they cut me open. I have this baby. She has all of these challenges that I have to navigate. So I felt like I hadn't given birth. But once I joined this mastermind and got this community, my coach Ashley actually became my midwife. And the mastermind community members were my partner in the Le Mans process. The one that's holding your hand and is telling you to cheer me on. And so as I've shed my weight and I'm on this next phase of my 50 years, my community, I hear them in my sleep telling me to push, right? And when I wrote chapter 12, Faith Over Fear, my water broke. And I started to cry and was telling my own self, you can push now. Because this time, this delivery process, you're going to come on the other side of it stronger, and you will understand what it's like to give birth to something that's bigger than you, that will impact the world even after you leave this earth.
That's so fun. I love it.
So community is really what helped me get there, and I'm so excited about your future. I'm gonna continue to watch the Karen Not Karen show online. I will say, whatever it is you do, trademark it because you want it to be yours. I know that you're not the Karen that's acting crazy. And truth be told, every nationality has somebody that acts up.
Yes.
It's just unfortunate that social media has
that they've just dragged my name through the mud over these years.
I got you
It's
back.
okay.
It's okay.
I'm overcoming it.
Well, and you know what? What you're going to be able to show the world is I'm not that Karen.
That's right.
And I'm so powerful. And if you want to be a part of this process where you're going to have a major impact on your life, you'll just have to come and join the movement.
Come on for the ride.
Yes.
Come on. Because there's seats on the bus.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Well, it has been such an honor to spend some time with you. I know a lot about you from Facebook because you are very transparent, and I think that's important because it has allowed you to move about the country without a lot of weight.
It has, and in that process too, I get a lot of private messages from things I post. So similar to you, I have people that will share a similar story with me or say that, thank you for saying that, like I've been struggling with this, or this really resonated with me. So when I said earlier, it's important that we're authentic because there are others who are going through the exact same things. And that's one way to still help other people.
And you're giving them their voice.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it took a long time for me to find my own. So I feel it's one way to help others. Like, regardless of what we do, it's important to reach behind and help those people along. And that's what we're doing.
I love it. Well, everyone, this has been Dr. Lisa L. Campbell, the Growth Motivator, where I help you shed the weight. And I know, for me, I have shed some weight in my time with Karen, not Karen,
right.
Because we're going to get you a new name.
I know. I'm not renaming myself. We just need to rename the Karens in society, and I don't know what we'd call them, but
we'll be dead before that happens.
We will. Yes.
We will. But you know what? We will continue showing up and showing the world that we're not what everybody says we are. We are who we show you we are. So thank you for being transparent and open and honest. And I just can't wait to see the next 5 years because I'm going to be your accountability partner, holding you to these goals that you want to achieve, when the time is right. Because one of the things I realize, everything doesn't happen overnight.
No.
And so while the birth process is 9 months. Our process doesn't have to be 9 months.
Correct. Yeah. I love it.
All right, everybody. See you soon.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.